in the dead of a freezing Montana winter night. When the wind howled like a wounded animal, a knock came at Eliza Thompson's door. Soft at first, then desperate. She froze, lantern trembling in her hand, heart pounding. No one came this far out on the dirt road anymore, not since her daddy died and the bank took the ranch piece by piece. She opened the door anyway. There stood a man tall, soaked to the bone, his Stetson dripping, shielding a little girl no older than 8, clinging to his leg like a bird. The child's lips were blue, her dark eyes huge with fear and cold. The man's voice cracked when he spoke. "Please, ma'am. My truck broke down 2 miles back. My daughter, she's freezing. We just need a place to warm up till morning. I swear on my life we mean no harm." Eliza looked at them, at the child's threadbare coat, too thin for this weather, at the man's tired eyes hollow with something deeper than cold, and felt her own heart break a little more. She had nothing left but this run-down cabin, a wood stove that barely worked, and a heart that refused to turn anyone away. "Come in," she said. "Stepping aside, both of you." The man hesitated like he hadn't expected kindness. Then he nodded, once gratitude thick in his throat. Inside, the place smelled of pine smoke and the faint sweetness of the one luxury she allowed herself. Dried lavender from last summer hanging from the rafters. Eliza stoked the fire tossed on the last 2 logs she had, and pulled out the only blanket she owned, wrapping the little girl in it like a burrito. "What's your name, sweetheart?" she asked kneeling Lily. The child whispered, clutching the blanket and yours. Eliza glanced up at the man, James. James Harlan. He removed his hat, revealing hair that hadn't seen a comb in days. He looked like a man who'd forgotten how to be gentle with himself. Eliza didn't ask why they were out in this storm, or why Lily's shoes were held together with duct tape. Instead, she heated what little she had. Half a pot of venison stew from the day before, thick with potatoes and carrots she dug up before the ground froze. She served it in chipped bowls, watching Lily devour it like she hadn't eaten in days. James tried to refuse, but Eliza set the bowl in front of him anyway. "You have to eat," she said quietly. "You can't take care of her if you fall over." He ate in silence, watching his daughter like she was the only light left in his world. Later, when Lily finally fell asleep on the narrow cot by the stove, wrapped in Eliza's only quilt, James told her the truth. "I lost my wife to the fever last spring," he said, voice raw. "Took Lily and left Texas chasing some fool dream of starting over. Sold everything but this old truck and the clothes on our backs. Thought Montana might be kinder. Turns out it's just colder." Eliza listened, stirring the dying embers. She'd lost her mother to illness too, her father to the bottle, after she knew that ache that hollowed you out. The next morning, the snow had stopped, leaving the world clean and cruel. James fixed the leak in the roof with a tarp he'd carried in his truck, patched the chicken coop fence with spare boards from the shed Eliza didn't even know she had, and by noon he chopped enough firewood to last her a month. "You don't owe me anything," she said, watching him work. James looked at her, then really looked like he was seeing her for the first time. "No, Eliza," he said, "I think I owe you everything." He paid for the roof, the groceries, the new tires on her ancient pickup. But that wasn't the miracle. The miracle was Lily, the little girl, who laughed for the first time, when Eliza taught her how to milk the old cow Bessie, and how to find the hidden warmth in a sunrise over the mountains. The miracle was the way James's hands, once calloused only by money and loss, learned to hold something fragile again. Days turned to weeks, then months. James found work at the nearby ranch, fixing fences and breaking horses. And every night, he came home to the cabin that now smelled of fresh bread and the pine he brought in on his boots. Lily started school 2 towns over, riding with the neighbors' kids. Eliza taught her to read with an old book of poetry her mother had loved, and James found himself smiling again, catching glimpses of it in the kitchen window as he split wood. One spring afternoon, Eliza found him out by the corral, staring at the wild horses running free on the ridge. "What you thinking, cowboy?" she asked, leaning against the fence. He looked over at her son, catching the silver in his hair. "I used to think money could buy everything," he said. "Houses, land, even love. But I was wrong." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Eliza Thompson," he said, dropping to one knee in the dirt and mud. "You gave me back my heart when I thought it was gone forever. Will you marry me?" Eliza's eyes filled with tears as she pulled him into his shoulder. "I do," she whispered. but only if you promise to keep that stove burning every night." James laughed through his own tears and kissed her, like the first time he saw the sun rise. Years later, folks in town still talk about the winter storm that brought James, Harlan, and his little girl to that little cabin on the ridge. They say the Millionaire Cowboy found something money can't buy, a woman with a heart softer than the Montana snow, who taught him the true worth of kindness. And every year on the anniversary of that night, James takes Eliza and Lily, now a young woman herself, heading off to college with dreams bigger than the mountains. Back to that cabin, they light the stove, share a simple meal of venison stew, and remember the night kindness changed everything. Because sometimes the greatest love stories don't start with fireworks or diamonds. Sometimes they start with a knock in the dark and a poor girl who opened her door. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Ripples and Legends. Hit that notification bell and drop a like if this story warms your soul tonight. Now let me tell you how one act of compassion sparked a love that lit up an entire lifetime.